that we've finished our announcements and our door prizes, it's time to welcome our Facebook Live audience to the October meeting of the Pomona Valley Bird Alliance. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker tonight. Brian Elliott is going to be speaking tonight on Birding Down Under, the Subantarctic islands of New Zealand and Australia. Now, last December, our conservation chair, Brian, joined a 15-day small ship birding and natural history cruise to the remote Subantarctic islands south of New Zealand. So this is not like just birding down under. This is like birding down under. That's kind of the way I think of it. Now, these UNESCO World Heritage Islands host the world's most diverse seabird populations, including 10 species of albatross and 7 species of penguins. Now, this is a part of the world that very few people visit. But Brian, as many of you know, he kind of likes that kind of travel, right? And tonight we are fortunate to have him share beautiful images and stories from these wild little visited islands. So get ready for some great pelagic birds, more of Brian's technical difficulties with sound. Just kidding. So get ready for some great pelagic birds, some penguins you may have never seen before, giant elephant seals, and the unique vegetation found on these islands known as mega herbs. I'm looking forward to that. I have to look that one up, you know. So are you ready? Let's give Brian a nice round of applause. Here you go.
I don't know how loud people are. All right, let me go back here. Thank you for being here, and let's go down under. Let me open up the under. Yeah. And we're going to get going here. And we're going to do the presentation.
Is that just a pile of guano?
What's that?
Is that just a pile of guano?
No, it is not. It's one of the most spectacular rock formations in the world. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to play this here, and I just screwed it up, so that's all right. Okay, we're going to go to the Subantarctic islands of New Zealand and Australia. The World Heritage Sites. It was absolutely incredible. Down under. Logistics, let me just throw this out first. So I took a plane from LAX, Queenstown, South Island. It's the adventure heart of South Island. It's also where you can take Lord of the Ring tours. And I actually did one. I'm not going to show that tonight, but it was pretty cool. I thought it was going to be hokey, but it was really good. Yeah, so I saw where all these shots were filmed. It was really cool all around there. So the Heritage Adventure, about 130 passengers. These are small ships. They're going to look big, but they're really, passenger-wise, not that big. In fact, it was the same boat I took in 2019 on my failed trip to Antarctica, the one that went bankrupt after about 8 days. And we never left the coast of Argentina. One Ocean, they went bankrupt. That boat floundered for a couple years, and finally Heritage bought it and renamed it, repainted it. It's the same boat. It's really cool. I like the boat. It's a really nice boat. 16 days on the boat. I booked my tour through Alvaro's Adventures. Some people may know of him. Alvaro Jaramillo, and George Armistead's on the board of American Birding Association. He also has a company, part of it, I don't know if he owns it or not, Hillstar out of Philadelphia. He's going to be rooting against my favorite team in the American League Tigers, because Philadelphia is going to be playing them next. So anyway, 20 people. So that's what I did, okay? And Subantarctic World Heritage Sites, here they are. We're going to take a trip to all these little islands south of New Zealand. One of them is an Australian island, and that is Macquarie Island down here. So Queenstown's about there. Go to Port. We're going to go to the Snares, Enderby and the Aucklands, down to Macquarie, up to Campbell, Antipodes, Bounty, and up to Chatham, and then back to Bluff. I kind of like this shot here. All those little dots there are those islands. These are remote places. You're not going to fly to them. They're uninhabited, with the exception of Chatham Island up here. They were sealers and whalers were there. Mice and cats got on them. The New Zealand has done an amazing job of getting rid of the invasives. Some of the islands you are not allowed to get on. You can't walk on them. There were several that we could. So Zodiac cruising was a lot of what we did. Macquarie Island is operated by Parks Tasmania. That's this one down here. So you see where, so there's a little more we're going to do. So a lot of sea time. So if you like pelagic birding, birds that live over the open ocean, it's your thing, because that's a big part of what you do on this trip besides going on to the islands. They were never inhabited, so there's no structures like that at all. The Antarctic convergence is this line right here. It's kind of cold water mixing with some warm water. A lot of upwelling occurs in this area, and so a lot of whales are out there, and other dolphins and other. And it's the heart of albatross country. So somewhere between the convergence and about 45 degrees, where a lot of the world's albatross roam around. 22 species of albatross. I'm now up to 16. Okay, so 18 species of penguins. I'm now up to 15. I got 3 more to go. And we're out in the open oceans. Away we go. So, pelagic birding. This is what you do. You just kind of stand. Okay, we're going to fail on the whole sound thing, so we're just going to stop the whole sound. And hopefully that's just not going to work. Tina, can you, I don't even know what to do about that.
Yeah, it's down to 2. Let me take it down further.
Yeah, I don't know even what to do. We don't even have, there's basically no sound to play anyway, so we can just watch it. That's probably the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
Oh, 1 was good. That's tolerable, I think. Okay. Yeah. So you stand in the back of the boat, get your binoculars out. You can't use tripods, it's just, moving around. That's a black-browed albatross right there. Yeah. And sometimes it's really hard to tell what kind of bird it is. You see birds flying around?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, those little things out there, those little petrels, and they're just zooming. I tried to get a picture of those. Oh, my gosh, Yeah. So I spent hours and hours, as did many people. They have lectures all the time, Broad-billed prion, or prion is from a Greek word meaning saw. They have like angles on their beaks. A lot of these. Yeah. Brown skuas. These are predator birds. They're going to see some more of them. They prey on penguin eggs, of all things. Giant petrels. These things have 3-4 foot wingspans. So the birds, on board, they got a big auditorium hall. There's Chelly, she's the expedition leader of Heritage, and she just did an amazing job getting us on and off the islands and organizing everything, giving us a little talk. We had lectures, there's two lectures a day when you didn't want to go bird watching. George Armistead on the left and Alvaro Jaramillo on the right. These 2 guys are absolutely brilliant guys. Alvaro is currently in South Africa birding. He's a world-renowned birder, both guys are. So here we are at the first set of islands, the snares. They're can't land on these, so we're going to have our Zodiacs out. The Zodiacs are the rubber boats with big motors on them. Get down onto those, and we cruise the shoreline. That's typical what you do on these things. Whether you go to Antarctica or whether you go to Svalbard or any of those kind of places, you're out there because you can't land on the islands. So, and sometimes you can see better things along the shore than you can walking around a rough terrain. So we got our prepared for it there. Snares Island, Tom did a endemic to with the snares. And they call it the snares because there were a lot of sea wrecks happening there. They said the island snared the boats. So just beautiful rocks here. And here's a endemic to the island, the snares crested penguins. We're just going to cruise along, take a look at them all to kill. They're pretty cool little birds. I got some close-ups coming up. Yeah, that's a typical. That's a silver gull. Here's the snares crested penguins. Little guys, about 2.5 feet high in the water. That's a ship out there, and we're going to return to it. That was the first island. We spent a few hours on the Zodiac, and then after going like all night long for a cruise. And then we go back on the boat and we go out, and there's the tens of thousands, possibly 500,000 sooty shearwaters nesting on this island. Sooty albatross, I'm sorry. And back on the river here. Did I get seasick? I did not. And this was actually pretty calm for this. Apparently sometimes these islands can have tremendous waves and difficulty landing because of the waves. I took meclizine, which used to be called bonine, and it worked for me. Yeah, I used to use the patch, but that doesn't work for me anymore. I get really bad, just dry mouth and dizzy, and I can't focus. I went to get more patches because it used to work for me. I went to my doctor at Kaiser, and apparently it came up with big red letters. I'm over 70, so you don't want to prescribe it. Yeah. So George and Alvaro and a couple other people on the boat were absolutely experts and would help point things out. It was pretty nice in there. And of course, there was a lot of expensive optics on this trip. A lot of expensive optics. Big cameras all over the place. Swarovski, Zeiss, binoculars, and Leica. It was pretty heavy duty. A few people were using iPhone 16s, and they got great shots too, but sometimes the birds came close. Yeah, there's George and Alvaro there. And there's one of the albatross species, which was new to me. I got 13 albatross species on this trip, so pretty amazing. It's a white-capped albatross. Took all the pictures are mine unless I'm in it, and then I probably handed my camera to somebody, or it's a selfie. Pintado petrel. Up until 2 years ago, it was called a Cape petrel. Now it's called a Pintado petrel, which was its original name. They were one of the more common birds. It's a smaller one. It's like pigeon size. We had a daily log of what to do, what's going to happen. They had a little TV screen in our room that had, what we were going to do for the day. You probably can't read that from where you are, but that's what that is. So then another day's, on the ocean, cruising over to the Auckland Islands Reserve. And this one we can walk on. And there's a breeding colony of New Zealand sea lions here. Sometimes called the hooker sea lions. We had to kind of walk past them gracefully, and then they had a boardwalk. We had to be led across. Get in this group, and we're going to walk across. And for protection, they had a stick. Okay, so. But the New Zealand sea lions, these are the big males. And the difference between sea lions and seals, the sea lions tend to have ear flaps. In case you didn't know that, seals don't have ear flaps. So they had a boardwalk on this island. There's no really trees, megaherds, and some nesting birds on there was a deal. So each time we landed, you got to go. Some people went in the morning, some people went later. We had 2 or 3 or 4 hours on the island. A group, you could also walk around the island, do an all-day thing, and some people did that. I just did the boardwalk day. I figured that would be good enough, and it was. Here's an endemic pipit, the Auckland Island pipit. If Darwin had gone to these islands, he would have had an interesting experience here, because these islands, there's pipits on each island, and they're all separate species. There's penguins, a couple of them that are endemic, and there's also tomtits, the blackbird I showed you a little earlier, on some islands that are different. So there's some similarity to the Galapagos in that regard, that there was some speciation that occurred. Oh yeah. Even parakeet on no trees, the red-crowned parakeet it was just in the bushes there, in the brush along the boardwalk. It was just feeding on some seeds, and pretty cool. Double-banded plover, that's just a little plover thing, but again, it's in the herbs there. I didn't learn the names of the plants, so I'm not going to be able to help with that, but that was a big deal for a lot of the botanists on the board, were the plant species. Again, there's like 4 species of shag in the islands that are unique to some endemic to islands. We would call this a cormorant, but the British names are shag. So this is the Auckland Island shag, which is different than the Bounty Island shag, which and brown skua, big birds. Southern royal albatross are nesting on the island. These are really big birds. They got like 6-7 foot wingspans. These are huge birds. There it is flying. Also, I'd like to point out that albatross, they're tube noses, which means they have these holes on the side of their noses, which they help excrete salt out of it. And sometimes they'll never land some albatross don't land for years. And they don't walk well. Their feet are way back on them, so they can't walk very well. But they stay out at sea and just kind of feed off the surface. But sometimes they will dive, and they are a bycatch in a lot of long-line fishing around the world. They'll dive in there and they'll go, swordfish line. Sometimes long line fishing is like 10 miles of line with hooks out in the ocean. And the albatross will go down to get the fish bait that's on it and get hooked. And they're one of the dangers for albatross is that. This shows the nostril there that has on the one side, there's another one on the other side of the beak. Petrels, which we're going to show you a little later, have a single tube nose and it's just on top of the beak. So the albatross have one on each side. Petrels have one. And they got that real nice hook bill. And this is southern royal albatross because it's got kind of a yellowish or light colored tip to the bill. The northern will have a reddish tip to the bill. Just some of the beautiful plants on the island called a megaherb. That's about a 2.5 foot high plant. And Alvaro on the right there is looking at a bird, and it turned out to be a snipe. The Subantarctic snipe was there, being bothered by a whole lot of people just kind of standing around taking pictures of it while it hunkered down in the bushes there. So, yeah, the snipe was inside here, right down in here. And we all got pretty good looks at it, and a picture, and then we all walked away. And then a sea lion kind of came up and got real aggressive toward George, which I didn't get a picture of. I kind of walking away at the time, but there's a New Zealand, a young fur seal. Yeah, rushed at George. He actually had to hit it with his tripod. Yeah. Endemic to the Auckland Island, the only island that they're on is the yellow-eyed penguin. Apparently when they go out to sea, they're solitary. Some penguin species are in groups when they go out. Yeah, yellow, it's just kind of a strange-looking eye there, real faint. Yeah. So getting in onto the islands, come in with the Zodiac to pick us up, and we're going to go cruise the shoreline. And we get on the Zodiac. I got some more pictures about how we actually get on them. That's Shelley over here. She's on the right-hand side. She's a big woman. She was so good. Yeah. And landing on the islands can be a problem with wind and waves. And we had really good weather, apparently, because sometimes they can't even land because it's too dangerous for the Zodiacs. You may or may not have recalled 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, there was a Zodiac that flipped over in Antarctica when they were landing and killed 3 people. So you have to be they always send the Zodiacs out first without any people in them to figure out whether they're going to be able to land or not. And then they go, okay, it's all safe. We're going to land. We think we can do it. Okay, I always like the word "we think we can do it." Yeah. And here's the Auckland Island Tom did. This is like I would say a finch-sized bird. That's endemic to Auckland Island. And the Auckland Island shag, notice they were on the nest, and notice a little chick behind it there. I don't know if you're seeing it, there's a chick right there. A young one. That's pretty cool. And no predators, no land predators. There's no need to fly, really. So there's 2 species of flightless teal on these islands. The Auckland Island teal and the Campbell Island teal are ducks that don't fly. They simply walk around or swim around and dive for their food. Yeah, beautiful little teal, Auckland Island teal. One of the most beautiful albatross. I got some more pictures of it flying later. The light-mantled, sooty albatross on a nest. So it was nesting season. The trip was in early December. Yeah. So when you're in the Zodiac, you're coming up to the side of the boat here. We had to go down that gangway to get onto the boat and then get off of the boat. And these are the able-bodied seamen, the ABS people. That's what they call them. That was their title on the boat. Most all the crew on these kind of boats are Filipinos. Huge number of Filipinos do it, and they're just outstanding work. They're just outstanding. Look at the waves going up and down. Yeah. It's not necessarily easy to get on and off the Zodiac at times, or to get on it. Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, we had a whole technique. Had a hand, use the hands. You had to, do the sailor grip. Where you grip wrists. You don't grip your hands because one lets go, both of you let go. So you always grip wrists. Yeah. Mud room. We kept our boots down there, provided by Heritage Expeditions. So they'd call us down by name. So I was in the, I don't know, it was the Albatross group, and then there was the Petrel group. They'd give an announcement. Petrel group, come down and start boarding. Get our boots on. Then the next day, then the whole day of Plagic, which I'm not going to show days of Plagic here. We had about a day and a half to get down to Macquarie, the farthest south, 54 degrees latitude. And there's about 1.5 million penguins nesting on this island. Most of them are royal penguins, a big number of king penguins, and there's also a smaller number of Gen 2 penguins and southern rockhopper penguins on the island, but really about 1.5 million penguins, the largest accumulation of penguins anywhere on the planet, more than anywhere in Antarctica. Yeah. Here's a group of kings just swimming around the boat.
What do they eat, Brian?
Krill.
Krill?
And small fish that they can catch, yeah. And there are killer whales, orcas, around the Macquarie. So this is food for the orcas as well as the sea lions. Yeah, here's how we get on to the zodiac. So you might find it interesting, maybe not, but yeah, you walk down the plank, and the able-bodied seamen, kind of grip you with there. You grip 2 of them, step on, step off. They'll tell you where to sit, and usually 8 or 10 people on a zodiac. Down there. Nobody fell in while I was on this tour. And we had to we had our own life jackets. I kept that in your room. Kept that in my room. And then you take off. All right, so we got to go and land on this one. Macquarie had a whaling station and a seal station. The Australian government has a research station there, and so they have people there almost all year round. They have a skeleton staff in the winter time because it's pretty brutal to actually get out there and get rescued would be very difficult in bad weather. Pretty far south, away from the islands. And the big critters there are the southern elephant seals, which are larger than the northern elephant seals. They're the largest seals on the planet. Right here, this is a video, I believe. Should be. Yeah, look at that big guy in the center there. That guy probably might weigh 2 or 3 tons, I'm sure. It's 8,000 pounds, I think, is what they might weigh. They're just monstrous. Yeah. So these are mostly king penguins here. They're all just kind of hanging out. There's a little battle going on in the background there. I don't know if you see it. Right here, these 2 guys back here, we're fighting a little bit. Yeah. So I did not notice this when I was there. What do you think that little hump is in the bottom? That's their egg. I didn't even notice. I was so busy looking at the whole big picture thing of all the penguins. I did not notice that all of them, or many of the king penguins, had eggs. And look at the feet right here, holding up the egg. Yeah, they were all. I didn't even notice that until I was preparing the slideshow, and I looked at, holy cow! Yeah. So king penguins and emperor penguins do this. They have a brood pouch. All other penguins have a nest on the ground. So yeah, they all had that. And I was like, whoa, how cool! And there's the first year of a king penguin looks like this. For a year, yeah. It takes 2 years before it starts looking. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Oh, this, yeah, they're great. Yeah, king penguins. Yeah. And again, there have never been people on the islands, just like the Galapagos, and so a lot of the animals, when you're on land, are simply not afraid of you. That's why you can walk up to animals, walk up to penguins. They've never had any land predators at all. And so a human is just not recognized as a predator. And it's the same thing with the seals on land. Yeah, the young southern elephant seals are called weaners because they just got weaned. And then there's subadults, which are a little bit bigger. And then they go swim out past the orcas. Yeah. And we're just walking right by them.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a pretty big one there. The young elephant seals testing themselves against each other. And of course, if you've ever gone to the beaches up by San Simeon, you know, the elephant seals up there, the big males show up and have big battles, so they're preparing for that part of their life later on. Yeah. They're graceful. Now, so this is one of the big predator birds, the giant petrel. This is a really big bird. This is a northern giant petrel because of the color of the beak, and it's a little darker bird. These are really big birds. They're like turkeys, almost turkey-sized birds. And they look mean. Look how mean it looks. Southern giant petrel, the nose is a little slightly different, a little lighter color in color. And this is the most common penguin on Macquarie, the royal. And I think there may be as many as 1 million of them on the island. They're just so cute. Those little pink feet, I love those. That's the noise a king penguin makes. They're very curious. Yeah. So one of the other species, so like royal penguins, king penguins, also have the gentoos, and here there's a nest. There, the male and female on a nest. The gentoo is laying on eggs, so it's not keeping a brood patch with the egg. Just love the face on that thing. What a beautiful face. Yeah. The southern giant petrel has a white morph. So this bird is, I'm going to just hold my hands out. Its body is about this long. And so its wingspan is about like this. So these are really big birds. And they call this one a white Nellie. We only saw 2 or 3. It's fairly rare. Yeah. As we're leaving, the royal penguins are out in the water. So we're the kings. Southern royals. You had to learn how to identify these things, and I'm still not convinced all my identifications and my pictures are correct on some of these birds, but because there's a lot of similarity to them. But I think over this span of 15 days, I was able to recognize many of them. Macquarie Island shag. There you go. It's got a little dot, a little feather color on the front of its face here. That's a little different than the others. Yeah. So there's kind of a scale for how big the boat is. Yeah. You know, the back deck where I just opened up with some pictures of people standing. You can stand back here on the back deck. No, that's the front deck, I'm sorry. You can stand there. The pilot is up in this area. I believe that's correct. No. It's the back. It's the back of the boat. Yep. Yeah, so we stand there, and you can also stand. There's an area up here. We actually had lunch out there a couple times up there. And then you got the lifeboats. Of course, we had to do a training to make sure we knew how to get out to them. Go back in, crowd up there, and take a look at things. You know, we just had a lot of fun. There were about 20 in my group that I did with about Alvaro and George, and I think we were the largest group on the board. But Tropical Birding had a group there with Luke Seitz and Steve Howell, who is one of the world's top experts on seabirds. If you want to know seabirds, Steve Howell was there, and he was quite a source of information a lot. If you want to learn how to paint, they had an artist on board who got a free trip probably, and had some painting classes, drawing classes you could take during the day. And his wife is a photographer, so she ran some photography sessions as well. Pretty cool. So if you just want to sit around and enjoy the back, you can do that. They have some chairs and hang out and just kind of watch the ocean go by. Maybe a good bird will come by. And we have menus every day. I'm not going to read that, but you know, you'd sit down for a menu and there's as much wine as you could drink too. It's like, okay. It was a really good. It was pretty good food on this boat. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah. So, next island up after a night of pelagic birding, or not nighttime, but the day trip, and then through the night, and you wake up, and we're at Campbell Island at dawn. Everybody gets up and goes to the front of the boat, and looking at the island, and you can imagine what all those white dots are. Those are not snowflakes. Those are, yeah. Most are black-browed albatross or Campbell Island albatross. And that's what it looks like up close and personal on the island. Yeah, these are all black-browed albatross here. So all those white dots are birds on nests. Yeah. Huge numbers of them. There's the bird in the air. Campbell albatross. And the way you know it's a Campbell albatross, which is a subspecies of the black-browed, is because of the yellow eye. And these are pictures I took. I took like 5,000 pictures. I got 10 good ones. Really, learning how to do birds in flight on a moving boat was a challenge. And the birds are not, it's particularly the little petrels. I didn't get very good pictures of petrels, but albatross sometimes came pretty close to the boat. Notice the red color on the end of the bill. That's one of the ways you knew it was a black-browed or Campbell albatross. So they have those poster inside the board. Yeah. So shagging in this country might mean, in England might mean something else. But okay, so they had a little poster about all the shags. Very cool. And there's the Campbell Island shag. You can see it looks different than the Macquarie Island. It looks different than the Auckland Island one. Early morning sunlight was a nice picture for that one. Kelp gulls. We saw actually very few gulls. Yeah. I just took pictures of groups sometimes in the morning. That's what I did. I hope you like my fancy camera strap. I left my camera strap at home when I was packing. A real nice one. In Queenstown, I'm going, holy crap, what am I going to do? How am I going to carry my big DSLR with my 1-400 lens on it? How am I going to carry that? There's no camera store in town, so they had a climbing store. So I went in and bought some climbing strap. And so everybody knew who I was. I had this yellow strap around myself all the time. It ended up working out really well for me. We're all standing around. Yeah. So Campbell Island was another island where we could walk around on. Landed there, had a nice boardwalk for a while. There was some albatross nesting there. There was a snipe that we were all hunting for. I did not see it, but some others did get a chance to see it. This was the worst weather of the trip. We had some sideways rain here for a little ways. These beautiful plants. And a Campbell Island pipit. And another flightless duck. And then back out to the shore. This was a tough one because the wind had come up and the waves had come up, and it was tough for the Zodiacs. But got back out there and then on to the next one. So a lot of free time on the boat. You could do pretty much, you didn't have to stand around hours and hours outside. Like I say, they had lectures, they had afternoon tea at 4. Then they had a bar at night, and somebody on the board would play piano, and so you could while away the hours without birding. Really, and there were a few people who really weren't birders on the cruise, but everybody had a good time. And now we're heading out again, and some pilot whales. I'd never seen pilot whales before, but so here's one of these smaller birds, the soft plumage petrel. I got an actual picture of it. It came pretty close. Much smaller. Gray-headed albatross, just beautiful birds. And again, it's got about a 6-foot wingspan. Big birds. Yeah. Gray-backed petrel. This is a birding cruise. Did you get that impression yet? It's sold as a birding cruise, and so most people on the boat had some interest in birding. Salvin's albatross looks somewhat similar to the gray-headed, but it's different. We're going to see the world's population of those in a little while. And it's all about the beak, the little dot on the beak, color of the wing, the underwing, how much black is on the underwing. White chin petrel is really hard to see the white chin, but that's a petrel now. Yeah. And back out in the Zodiacs for some landings at Auckland Island, or Smears, Auckland, Campbell, and then Antipodes. We're now going to go to the Antipodes Island. And one of the unique things there were two parakeets. Out way in the middle of the ocean, there are two parakeets on these small island. And this is the only island in the world where they're found. The Antipodes parakeet has some blue under its chin, kind of a whitish beak, green and blue. And the Reichach's parakeet, which has some red on it. We were fortunate enough to get close enough to see these birds. And the New Zealand fur seal. And a red-crested penguin, so a new species of penguin. They're kind of like the Snares penguins, but apparently they're different. They're different species. And a southern rockhopper penguin. I saw these in Antarctica as well. Some of these I'd seen before in Antarctica. The light-mantled sooty. This is just a beautiful bird. And again, this is a big bird, bigger than a raven. And it's nesting. Fur seals. And then one of the guests on board was this guy Marvin something. Apparently he had a lot of TV shows in the 60s, some dinosaur thing that kids watched. Maybe some of you did, I don't know. But he was quite the storyteller. He had some video clips of his shows from he was this sort of an adventure, kind of a Steve Irwin guy of his day, I think, back in the 60s. And he's still doing a few things like that, but he wowed us with his, pretty good. He was pretty full of himself. But he was humorous. I had a lot of nice chats with him outside. He was just a friendly guy. What does a room look like on these boats? I was sharing a room with an unknown person to me. We ended up getting along really well, a guy from Oregon. We said we had the roommate jackpot. Because we got along so well. There was another group on board who had a triple room or a quad room, and apparently there were yelling matches going on, and it's like it was one guy just apparently there were just yelling matches going on, and it'd just be really irritated. One guy they said was in the middle of the night taking showers and turning the lights on. So Marcus and I had just a wonderful experience together. We got along really well. So occasionally they had a lunch out on the patio here outside the there. And now we're going to go to the Bounty Islands, named after the ship, the Bounty. Captain Bligh and the Bounty sailed by here, and they were probably maybe one of the first to actually see it. And about 2 months later was the famed mutiny. They had gone here. So they named the islands after the ship, the Bounty. And 2 months later, Captain Bligh was, that's, the whole thing, what happened. But what an amazing place. There are about 30,000 Salvin's albatross nesting here, huge numbers of sea lions. I'm not sure what this, this in here, I like this video. Look how high that goes up and down. Unless they had a real hard to get, you almost fell there. There was one time where it was going up and down about 6 feet. The arm, step, as it got higher, and then it might drop, time in it. Just wait. Wait. I'll tell you where to sit. All right. So the Bounty Islands, we take a cruise in here. And there's about 30,000 Salvin's albatross flying around. And fur seals. I love the rock colors here. These are granite rocks here. Southland's albatross. Yeah. They're feeding chicks, yes. Is that what you said? Yeah, they're feeding chicks. I think I had a picture of them. Yeah, they're feeding chicks. They were nesting their active chicks there. I didn't get a very good picture of them actually transferring food. And the Bounty Island shed. Antarctic tern, beautiful tern with a red bill. And the New Zealand fur seal. Red-crested penguins. Going in here. This island had a unique prion, a fulmar prion, which fed differently than most other prions, would dive into the water to feed. These birds are about robin-sized. It was really hard to take video in the zodiacs, bouncing up and down. But just beautiful scenery. It was just so cool to be on the water like this, with these animals and around, the birds and the seals, and just being outdoors with some friends and new friends, and back to the zodiac. Oh, missed it. There's Shirley telling him what to do. Throw the ropes up. Oh, God, you could get caught between that and the boat. It's potentially pretty dangerous. This was a difficult one. So if you go on this kind of boat, you got to be sort of fit, but yeah. We gotta be willing to take some personal risks in some ways. Yeah. Heritage adventure in the boat. This was that big pile of guano that you saw. It's about 1,000 feet high. It's a pyramid. It was kind of foggy as we approached in the morning, and it kept getting bigger and bigger. And it was just phenomenal. The world's population of Chatham albatross nest on this island. The entire population of Chatham albatross nest on this island. They roam as far as Chile. They'll go across the Pacific, and then they come back to this island to nest. And we did 2 circumnavigations of the island. Went around it. That's pretty. You can't get too close. So, everybody was in the front of the boat on this one. Cameras, binoculars out. There's the Chatham albatross. Just a beautiful bird. Albatross are amazing, really. Breeds only on the pyramid. That's it, about 30,000 of them, I think. And then across the Pacific and then back. White-fronted terns. And then there was one bird on this island that is, apparently there's a couple of them every year on this island. And and we're pointing it out now, and that's the yellow-nosed albatross, the Indian yellow-nosed albatross. It was way up there, and I managed to get a half-decent shot of it from way far away and crop it like crazy, real heavy crop. So now we're done with all the main islands, and we're going to go to the final island, which is Chatham Island, and it has a village on it, a town, and there's sheep farmers there. Grow a few crops, but mainly it's sheep and fishing. And there's actually an airport there. You could actually fly over from the mainland to do this. And we're going to go there, and we go to a nice little restaurant for blue cod and beer, and then we're going to take some field trips on the interior of the island to a very special bird that's coming into the island there. We're going to go into the island here. There's really hardly any trees. The sheep farming is the main thing. There are still invasive species that they're trying to get rid of on this island. But the policing helped. So everybody on the whole island helped carry all of us out there. There weren't enough taxis or buses to get everybody out there. So even the police you weren't arrested, but you got to ride in a police car, and some people did, to get out to the reserve. And it's a Tycho Sanctuary Reserve, one of the rarest, and there's several of these when you put that phrase, rarest birds in the world. It's a ground nesting petrel, as many petrels are. And it's called the magenta petrel, or in the Maori language, the Tycho, Taiko. A ground-dwelling bird that lives in this treed area, these small trees. It crawls up the trees at night and takes off. Because it can't take off from the land because the trees are there. So we didn't get to see that. But apparently this bird climbs up this tree. It's kind of, branches like that. It's not a vertical stem. And then takes off. And there's only about 150 of these birds around. So they built this fence around a huge area, like 1,000 acres or something, around this preserve. And it goes down many feet in the ground to keep the ground-dwelling mammals from entering. And also keeps out the weka, which is a type of rail that will also eat the eggs. Maybe keep the cats out, but maybe not. So they're trying to protect this bird, the magenta petrel. And there was one there. This guy Dave is one of the main guys doing this. And there was a male there that was unmated. And he knew where it was. He was able to, during the day, they just kind of hang out, the birds do, and they fly at night. And he was able to, he knew where it was, and he had kind of put a rock in front of his little hole and was able to pull it out for us. And gave us a nice talk about it. We got some nice close-up pictures of the magenta petrel. And you can see that single nostril on the top there. That's what all of the petrels had, including the giant petrels. And this is, like I said, one of the rarest petrels in the world. And we got a nice look at this particular one. To see one is extraordinarily rare. They fly at night. Just a beautiful bird. They also have a whole friends of sort of thing, trying to help rid the island of invasives. And they have these traps out. And they offered us to donate some money, and there'd be a trap in your name, and they'd send you an email with what it catches. And this is my trap. I paid $250. I donated $250 for them to buy this trap and install it. And then they sent me a picture of it once it was installed. And many of the other people in my group that I was with also did it, and they got different pictures. So we're all sharing our pictures of where I was. So they're going to catch, cats, and other things, mice, rats, and try to keep the island free of those kind of things too. Because these islands are really about birds. There are really no mammals living on these islands except the rats and mice and cats that humans brought. Other than that, it was really just birds. There are no lizards, no snakes, none of that. Certainly insects, but nothing else. And so that's what they're trying to preserve. And this is the only island they had domesticated animals on it, sheep. Yeah. So we then took a hike on its private reserve. We had permission, and we walked this trail for a little while, and I was fortunate enough to see a weka, W-E-K-A. It's about this tall off the table. It's kind of like a clapper rail, or a ridge-raised rail, about that. It's flightless, can't fly. But it was introduced to the island, so it is non-native to the island, and it will prey on the magenta petrel chicks and eggs. So it's one of the creatures that they want to get rid of. Yeah. New Zealand fantail, they're all over New Zealand, including this island. The Chatham Island, and how would you say that word? Most people say Jerrygon. Apparently it's Jerigany.
Oh.
Yeah, we're all saying Jerrygon. No, it's Jerigany is how you pronounce that, actually. Yeah, the Chatham Island Jerigany, so it's an endemic. And here we are, come out from near the entrance to the preserve, shooting some pictures of a beautiful Chatham Island pigeon. Just a gorgeous bird. Zodiac Cruise got an endemic short plover, another shag, just another shag. So these, if I can blow this in, so I got a green face, a silver gull. Back on the boat, and we're about to the end of the trip now. We've got about, I think it's 500 or 600 miles of ocean to cross back to the mainland. It's going to take about 2 days to do that. Lots of lectures, lots of standing around, pelagic birding. The pelagic birding was really best once you got down past the snares, because you're now in the roaring 50s, they call it, and that's the albatross zone of the winds. So the winds were right, we all kind of hunker up against the back of the boat out of the wind. That was a typical dinner experience. And some friends here. 2 on the right are from Canada, woman in the middle, she lives in the Bay Area. The other guy is a physician in Texas, and Miles there, who's next to me on the left, is from Canada. He's an environmental engineer. It's pretty cool. And there we took a group shot. The photographer took a group shot. Yeah. So this is George and Alvaro's group. And day and a half, and we're going to be back in the mainland, and the trip will be over. I'd just like to end with just some statistics. So I've gotten, you don't see a lot of species. You go to Peru, you might get 400 species on a trip. I got 95 on this trip, okay? But half of them were lifers for me. So those are all the checklists there. And that's it. Thank you. I'll entertain a few questions. If anybody has anything to add or...
We're going to turn the house lights up and repeat the questions.
Yeah, I'll repeat the questions.
Do the albatross smell as bad as penguins from a distance?
No, they do not. Well, I never got close enough to them. Do penguins smell bad like penguins?
Albatross. Well, when you're...
The albatross smell bad like... No, never. I didn't seem to. And, the penguins, after about 5 minutes on the island, you just didn't notice it anymore.
No, I just was wondering, because as your ship got close to the islands in Antarctica, you can know there's a penguin colony, because you can smell
I think the winds kept that from happening. Yeah, somebody had one over here first. No. Good.
What was the cost of that boat?
Expensive. Okay. You want to do a tree? Okay, so a double room like I had was about $18,000. I just, what am I saving my money for? That's kind of what, it was like, if not now, when? And fortunately, I had enough, I am on a pension, but I got some money and I just spent it. I got one over here, then Gary.
How were most of those islands formed?
Some of them were crustal. This is a good point about a couple of them. Some of them were volcanic. The Auckland Islands were 2 volcanoes. Some of the others were granites, which were uplifted during collisions, where they were parts of a continent. Macquarie Island is reputedly the only place on the planet where oceanic crust is exposed to the surface of the Earth because of the Australian plate and the Antarctica plate colliding. So it's actually crustal material that you would find on the bottom of the ocean. So that's pretty much... That answers some of that. Gary?
They're late spring, too far south. How long were your days?
I would say we usually got dark, say at 11 or 12, and light again at 4 or 5 in the morning, something like that. Yeah, we're only at 54 degrees, so it wasn't like we're the Arctic. Okay. 66 and 2/3 basically is Arctic or Antarctic. Yeah, so it wasn't all that. And going out at night on a ship, you don't see much because there's so many lights on a boat. It's hard to even see stars on boats like that because there's so many lights that they have to have on so they can be seen. Other questions? Yeah.
I was wondering, the little boats that you're on,
Zodiacs.
The Zodiacs, they look dangerous because you see the waves going up so high and everybody's sitting on the edge.
Everybody's sitting on the edge. Oh yeah, if it were really wave out there, they wouldn't go. And like I told you, there was one that overturned in Antarctica back in 2022. At the shore, they were landing and it flipped over. And you could flip out. So they got ropes along it. You're gripping the ropes. They got ropes all along the side where you're gripping when you're sitting down, and you're bouncing. And if it really gets bouncy, you can actually sit down inside the boat as well. And some people did that. Okay, a couple more over here, then over there.
Did you keep your camera in a wet bag, or what
Never.
did you do?
Never.
How did you handle it, getting in and out of the zodiac.
Oh, yes, for the zodiac. Yes, I have a waterproof day pack. Yeah, basically a dry sack backpack. You can buy those. They have those.
And you kept it on your back?
Well, when you're in the zodiac, I kept it on the floor.
Yeah, but as you climbed in and out.
Yeah, it's on my back. No, you weren't allowed to do that. You had to hand it to somebody on the boat. Yeah, and then when you got off the boat, you had to hand it to somebody, and they would give it back to you when you got on the boat.
And what about your what you were wearing?
We just wore boots and rain pants.
Just rain pants.
Yeah.
It looked like some people were in waders. Was that?
Oh, that was the crew.
That was the crew.
The crew were in waders. One question way back here. Yeah.
Beautiful photographs. How long have you been taking pictures?
Way too long, and I take a lot of pictures, so I get lucky sometimes. Okay. Literally, I took over 5,000 pictures on this trip. And I had to wade through those. And frankly, if I were really dedicated, I would have stayed up all night looking at them that day. That's almost impossible to do. And that's why sometimes I had to, what bird is this? What picture did I get here? So yeah, I'm trying to get better at photography. But yeah, I've had my DSLR now for 5 or 10 years. So, yeah. Thank you for the compliment. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you for being here.
So do you feel like you've traveled someplace remote? Yeah, very special. Thank you, Brian. That was like a little taste of a part of the world most of us will never see. Let's give a big round of applause to our hospitality team. Did you notice the cute autumn and Halloween decorations? I was almost sorry we cleaned it up because I was going to point it out, but it's all gone. But hopefully you saw it when you were in line and you had plenty to eat. And we want to remind everybody to join us on November 7th for a special screening of the documentary called Hawk Watch. Now, this is a film highlighting the spring migration of Swainson's hawks through the Borrego Valley. And Alicia and Matt will introduce the film and lead a question and answer session afterwards. The Borrego Valley hosts one of the largest spring migration gatherings of Swainson's hawks in North America. So come learn about this remarkable migration and the people working to protect it. All right, everybody, thank you for coming. Drive home safely, and we'll see you next month if we don't see you sooner at one of our October events. Thank you again. Good night.